fog draped the cemetery like a heavy veil on that chilly morning. Sarah had been a gravedigger for 12 years, accustomed to the quiet that settled over the graves. But this silence felt different, thicker, almost watchful. She was there to exhume the remains of Mr. Daniel Pierce, buried in 1978, at the request of his family, who wanted him relocated to a plot nearer their new home. It was a straightforward job, or so the paperwork claimed. With her team, Sarah marked the site in the older section of the cemetery, where the ground was uneven and the headstones tilted from decades of neglect. The air smelled of damp earth and decay as they began to dig, the fog muffling the sound of their shovels. They worked methodically, cutting through the sod and lifting the soil until they reached the concrete vault. The lid was weathered but intact, sealed with old, crumbling caulk that hinted at a previous disturbance, something not noted in the records. Sarah exchanged a glance with the funeral home representative standing nearby, then signaled her crew to pry it open. The slab gave way with a groan, revealing the coffin beneath. When they lifted the lid, Sarah's breath caught. There wasn't just one set of remains. 2 skulls stared up at her, their bones intertwined in a chaotic jumble. Mr. Pierce's skeleton should have been alone, a single occupant laid to rest decades ago. But here was another, smaller, delicate, not matching the size or age of a man in his 60s. "This isn't right," Sarah said, her voice low. She checked the cemetery index again. Daniel Pierce, buried 1978, sole occupant. No mention of a second burial, no shared plot, nothing. The county witness stepped closer, peering into the vault with a frown. They halted the job, covering the coffin with a tarp as they waited for the coroner. Sarah couldn't shake the questions buzzing in her mind. Who was this second person? How had they ended up here, unrecorded and forgotten? The fog seemed to press closer, as if guarding the secret. Hours later, the authorities arrived, carefully extracting the remains. Over the next few weeks, forensic analysis revealed the truth. The second skeleton belonged to a young woman, likely in her 20s, who had disappeared in the early 1980s, a case that had gone cold miles away. Her identity was confirmed through dental records, but how she came to rest in Mr. Pierce's grave remained a mystery. The Pierce family swore they knew nothing, their shock palpable. Sarah returned to the site days later, after the remains had been removed and the vault sealed anew. The grass was patched over, the headstone reset, but the ground felt different, like it remembered. She wondered if it was a mistake, a clandestine burial, or something darker. The cemetery stretched out around her, rows of silent stones hiding their own stories. That job stayed with her. Every time she dug into the earth after that, she half expected another secret to surface. Bones that didn't belong, lives erased from the books. The cemetery was more than a resting place. It was a keeper of shadows, whispering truths no one wanted to hear. And Sarah, with her shovel in hand, was its reluctant listener. The cemetery sprawled beneath a gray October sky, its silence broken only by the rustle of leaves skittering across the gravel paths. James had been tending these grounds for over 15 years, a caretaker to the forgotten and the mourned. That morning, he'd received an order to exhume a grave in the eastern corner, Section G, Plot 19. The request came from a lawyer representing a family eager to relocate their kin, a man named Henry Vaughn, buried in 1978. The plot lay in the oldest part of the cemetery, where headstones tilted like weary soldiers, and the earth clung to secrets long buried. James arrived with his tools, shovel, pry bar, and a tarp, his breath fogging in the chill air. The marker was a simple slab, etched with Henry's name and dates, half swallowed by moss. He began digging, the soil yielding easily under his steady hands. It took 2 hours to reach the vault. The concrete lid was cracked but intact, sealed with aged caulk. James pried it open, expecting the routine sight of a weathered coffin. Instead, He froze. The coffin was there, but beside it, wedged into the vault's corner, was a small wooden box, its surface stained dark with time. He lifted it out, the wood rough against his calloused fingers. The lid was nailed shut, but a few careful pries with his crowbar loosened it. Inside lay a bundle of letters, yellowed and brittle, tied with twine. A single photograph slipped free. A grainy image of 3 men standing in the cemetery at night, shovels in hand, a shadowed shape at their feet. James untied the letters, his curiosity outweighing protocol. The handwriting was tight, urgent. They buried her here, where no one would look. I couldn't stop them. God forgive me, I stayed silent. The notes were signed Henry Vaughn, dated months before his death. They spoke of a woman, unnamed, killed and hidden in the cemetery, her resting place unmarked. His pulse quickened. He glanced at the coffin, then back at the photograph. The men's faces were blurry, but the scene was unmistakable. A clandestine burial, right here in these grounds. Henry hadn't just been buried, he'd been a witness to something terrible, a secret he'd carried to his grave and beyond. James's colleague Pete wandered over, lighting a cigarette. "You good, Jim? You've been staring at that hole like it's gonna talk." "Found something," James muttered, holding up the box. "Letters, a photo. Something's not right about this one." Pete frowned, peering over his shoulder. "Family know about this?" "Doubt it. This wasn't in the records." They stood in silence, the weight of the discovery settling between them. James knew the rules. Report it. Let the authorities sort it out. But these words, this confession, felt personal, like Henry had left them for someone to find. He decided then. He'd finish the exhumation, send Henry's remains to the family, but the box, he'd take it to the police. Maybe it was too late for justice, but it wasn't too late for truth. As he covered the vault and packed his gear, the cemetery felt different. Less a place of rest, more a keeper of untold stories. Walking away, he wondered how many other graves held more than bones, how many secrets lay waiting beneath the earth he'd walked for years. I've been tending graves at Greenwood Cemetery for over 2 decades. My name's Tom, and I've grown used to the quiet, the kind that wraps around you like damp fog, heavy with the weight of forgotten names. The job's routine: dig, bury, level the earth. But some days, the ground whispers back. It was a crisp October morning when the order came through. Section C, Plot 27. Mrs. Eleanor Thompson, buried in 1955. Her family wanted her relocated to a plot up north, closer to them. Simple enough. The older sections like C are tricky. Roots twist through the soil and the markers tilt with time. But I've handled worse. Mike, my assistant, and I started at dawn. The air smelled of wet earth and decaying leaves, and our shovels bit into the ground with a rhythmic thud. After hours of digging, we hit the vault. An old concrete liner, cracked but holding. I grabbed the pry bar, and with a groan, we lifted the lid. I expected one coffin, Mrs. Thompson's. But there were 2. Hers was wooden, weathered as the records promised. Beside it sat a smaller metal coffin, tarnished and ancient-looking. Mike shot me a glance. "That in the log?" I checked the cemetery index. Plot 27. Eleanor Thompson, 1955. Nothing else. "No," I said, my voice low. "Shouldn't be here." Curiosity gnawed at me. We hauled the metal coffin up, its weight surprising for its size. I hesitated, then cracked the lid. Inside lay a skeleton in a tattered uniform, Civil War era, judging by the brass buttons. A faded photograph rested in the pocket, a young couple, staring blankly. No name, no marker. "Who is he?" Mike asked, his breath clouding in the chill. "Predates the records, maybe," I said. "Could have been a family burial before this was a proper cemetery." Greenwood's been around since the 1800s. Not everything got written down. We called the director, who brought a historian from the local society. She was thrilled, rattling on about military records while they took the remains and photo away. Mrs. Thompson's coffin went north as planned, and we filled the hole, leaving plot 27 just a scar of turned earth. But it stuck with me. As I leaned on my shovel that evening, the cemetery stretched out silent, its headstones like teeth in the dusk. How many others lie unlisted beneath the grass? This job's more than moving dirt. It's brushing against history, stories time tried to erase. "You think there's more down there?" Mike asked, wiping his hands. "Probably," I said. "Ground's full of secrets. We just don't always find them." I walk that section sometimes, past plot 27, now smooth and unmarked. The quiet's different there, not peaceful, but waiting. I'm no detective, just a man with a shovel. Yet every so often, the earth gives up something it's held too long, and I'm left wondering who else is down there, resting in the dark, waiting to be known. I've been digging graves at St. Agnes Cemetery for 12 years. My name's John, and I've learned to respect the quiet here, the kind that seeps into your bones, heavy with the weight of untold stories. Most days the work is routine: dig, bury, fill. But some days, the earth gives up more than it should. It was a foggy Wednesday when the order came through. Section D, Plot 15. Mr. Edward Finch, buried in 1963. His family wanted him moved to a newer plot across town. I grabbed my tools and headed out with my assistant, Sam. The air was thick, the kind of fog that clings to your skin and muffles sound. We started digging, the soil surprisingly loose for a grave that old. "Ground soft," Sam muttered, wiping sweat from his brow, like it's been turned recently. I nodded, uneasy. When we hit the coffin, it was intact, but strange symbols were etched into the wood, circles and lines, like something from a forgotten language. I'd never seen anything like it. We pried the lid open, and there, beside Mr. Finch's remains, was a small, ornate box. Inside, a stack of old photographs, each showing a different person, their eyes scratched out. Tucked beneath them was a note in shaky handwriting. "They watch from below." A chill crawled up my spine. "What the hell is this?" Sam whispered. I didn't answer. We lifted the coffin, but as we did, the ground beneath it shifted, then collapsed, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside were 3 more coffins, ancient and unmarked, their wood rotted through. The air from below smelled wrong, stale, with a hint of something metallic. We called the cemetery director, who brought in the police. They found no records of additional burials in Plot 15. The coffins were exhumed, but the remains inside were too degraded to identify. No names, no dates, just bones left to time. The authorities left it at that, but I couldn't. Those photographs haunted me. Faces with eyes like black voids. And that note, "They watch from below." I started seeing things after that. Shadows in the corner of my vision, always gone when I turned. At night, I dreamed of eyes staring up from the dirt, unblinking. Weeks later, I walked past Plot 15. The hole was filled, the grass fresh and undisturbed. But as I stood there, a cold breeze brushed my neck, and I swear I heard a whisper, faint but clear. "We see you." I don't scare easy, but that plot feels different now. It's not just a grave, it's a warning. The dead are supposed to rest, but some things, buried deep, never sleep. They just wait, watching from below. I'm Alex, and I've tended graves at St. Harrow's Cemetery for 12 years. The silence here isn't just quiet, it's heavy, layered with names faded from stone and records that don't match the earth. Most jobs are routine, but some dig up more than dirt. It was late spring when the call came. Section C, Plot 17. A family wanted their aunt, Edith Crane, moved to a newer site. Died 1969, no complications noted. I grabbed my shovel and headed out alone. The crew was off that day. The ground was damp, roots twisting through the soil like veins. I started digging, expecting the usual. A vault, a coffin, maybe some shifted bones. But at 3 feet, my shovel hit something hard. Not concrete, not wood. It was a flat stone, unmarked, buried sideways. I brushed it clean and found scratches etched into it. She knows. No context, no name. I set it aside and kept going. The vault was there, sealed tight, but the lid was scratched, deep gouges like someone had clawed at it from below. I pried it open. Edith's coffin was intact, simple pine, but next to it sat a leather pouch, weathered but untouched by rot. Inside were photographs, black and white, edges curling. A woman, stern-faced, staring straight at the camera. Dozens of them. All her. All undated. On the back of one, in shaky script, "You can't hide it forever." I lifted the coffin, and the ground beneath gave way, revealing a shallow hollow. No second coffin, just a bundle of cloth. I unwrapped it. Inside were bones, small, fragile. A bird maybe, or something else. They were tied with twine, arranged in a circle. No record mentioned this. Edith was supposed to be alone. I called the office, then the coroner. They took the pouch and bones, but the photos stayed with me. I couldn't let them go. The investigation found nothing. No hidden burials, no family claiming the extras. Edith was reburied, the plot smoothed over. But it's not the same now. When I pass Section C, I hear it. A faint rustle, like paper turning. The photos sit in my locker, her eyes following me in dreams. I see shadows too, low to the ground, darting between stones. The stone said, "She knows," but who? Edith? Someone else? I've dug hundreds of graves, but this one clings. The dead should rest, yet some hold secrets tighter than the soil. And out here, in the quiet, I wonder who's still listening.